Hello, hello.
Hey, change
How you doing?
good. Oh, it's just my earbuds are-
You're cutting in and out just a little bit.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, you're good, you're good. So I'm gonna try to call low one more time and then we can get started. I'm about to
Okay.
spark up anyway.
Yay,
Girl.
me too. I summon in lo 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 lo.
Hello. What's
Hello.
poppin'?
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm gonna drop this pizza and I'm be right back with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. While you doing that, I'm gonna take a second real quick. What's up, K Boogie? So, okay, what we're talking about is the attached video. I don't know if K Boogie has, but I think everybody told me on this panel that they've read the book before. And me and Lo were talking about it like on and off the last couple of days as well. So I decided to like bring it down because first it was going to be all of them, which we can, but I felt like I went back and just listened to the first agreement and
Mm-hmm.
I've been like actively working to apply it and apply the skill, so I think that each agreement deserves their own time to be discussed and
Yeah,
processed. So I think I'm going to do
for
each
sure.
one separately. So,
For-
Moody, what were your thoughts? What are your thoughts on it?
Uh, well, this book alongside The Secret, these two books literally changed my way of thinking. So I show great homage when it comes to the four agreements. When it comes to the first agreement, hold on, the heck is this? When it comes to the first agreement, it teaches us, or it taught me, um, how to control my life. How to set my own boundaries and my own beliefs in my own life and put them into action. And I don't have to believe what I've been told or someone else's experience, that I should solely like rely on myself. So I love the book in general. It's very motivating and everybody should read it for sure. So good pick.
So the first agreement is be impeccable to your word or with your word. So as he was explaining it, he brought up like a couple different examples. Some of the things that Don said was that words are spells, which is a concept that I've learned about like the last couple years. Like it's pretty new to me, but it's always made sense, right? If a prayer is just words, then automatically I feel like those things would fall into the same category. So he kind of speaks about how the words that you speak onto others and to yourself, you know, contribute to your reality, and that everybody here has the ability to create their own personal heaven or hell. It's something that is subjective to us and how we perceive the world around us. And so this book is kind of about how to create your own personal heaven. And so one of the first things is being impeccable to your word. Now, with words, with another book, so you mentioned The Secret. The Secret is a really good book. I've been trying to
Hmm.
get to that one. I haven't gotten to it yet. I read The Law of Happiness. That was going to be my next one after that. And then I took a little bit of a break, and now I'm rereading The Anatomy of the Spirit, which is a really good book. And I think all these books correlate. They all have similar truths. Like The Law
I
of
heard the
Happiness
last one.
is,
What was it again?
yeah, the law of happiness and the
Okay.
anatomy of the spirit.
Okay.
um the, the anatomy of the spirit is more talking about how biography, the things that you experience become your biology. So it's literally the same thing. And it was funny because I listened to the audiobook of the first agreement, and then I was reading the first chapter again of the Anatomy of the Spirit, and those things go hand in hand. So they use similar examples. Like one example in the four agreements that Don used was, say a child doesn't know that 12 is a dozen, you know. Now, that could just be something simple, but if the teacher berates you and humiliates you, now that becomes an agreement, especially if you accept it. Now, those
Mm-hmm.
things contribute to the way that you perceive yourself in the world around you. Now, in the Anatomy of the Spirit, like she said, your biography becomes your biology. So it's also talking about how that negative experience also changes your DNA, your tissues, and can cause health issues. And it is another way of perceived reality, creating your own personal hell, right? So these things go hand in hand. And I find that and even in the law of happiness, they speak on being intentional. And I feel like being impeccable with your word is not only being intentional with your words, but intentional with your energy. Because to send hate towards somebody takes energy, it takes effort. And that is depleting that energy from yourself, if not amplifying the negative energy in your own space. So the importance of being um, intentional with what you give energy to was how I interpreted the first agreement, and using that through understanding what spells are. And so understanding somebody can call me ugly or stupid or whatever the case may be, something trivial like you would see in school, but only if I accept that does it
Yeah.
become an agreement and a spell between us two. Otherwise, it's just a spell that they're casting on themselves.
Yeah, that's powerful. That is
Yeah, this is
very
my first
powerful. It's
time
like
like
realize that.
even looking at this. So I watched the video, listened, and it was like amazing because I see this happen all the time. Like my ex-wife, she was told she was ugly coming up like her whole life, and she really thought she was ugly. I was like, why would I be with you if you were ugly? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I also like the way that he broke down the word impeccable. M obviously is like not or
Mm.
without, and impeccable was sin. And the way he described sin
Yes.
was anything you do that goes against yourself. It wasn't like a biblical thing, it's just anything that
Yes.
hurts yourself. And I was like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very.
what he said then was like in order to deal with that sin, you take responsibility for the sin, but don't judge yourself or blame yourself for that. Because the opposite of being impeccable with your word is self-rejection, which is death. But being impeccable with your word is life. And I was just like, yo, this is blowing my mind. But then what you said too, like what you give energy to, like if she gives energy to her mother, of course, who says she's ugly, of course she's gonna believe that. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? But when you really give
Yeah.
energy to people like that don't even know you. Like, let's say you go on stereo and you know yourself, or you don't, and then somebody says like you're a narcissist, and then you're like, dang, I'm a narcissist. you know,
Then you
that you
agree.
just
Like,
yeah, and you
yeah.
agree, and you take that
Mm.
energy in, and then like all of a sudden you might become a
You're not.
narcissist. Right? Yeah.
Like, what warped way is this of living? Like, nah. And a lot of people could think of it as, no, like, I can't possibly be doing that to myself. You know what I mean? Like, I
I
think
like to
that's
be
where, like,
critical with myself, but dang, to absorb it is, whew, yeah,
that's another thing, especially being
yeah,
an
it's
empath
different.
or an energy reader of some sort. Yeah, it's this is a good starting point. I mean, even the domestication and the dream of the planet, it's relevant too. But I love the fact that she started with the first agreement because it teaches you like how this works, like how you
Hmm.
set yourself up for these agreements, like these contracts that you make with people, like soul
Hmm.
tides and contracts. Like, so I was like, wow, that shit kind of goes hand in hand. So it's just dope. It's dope.
It kind of reminds me of a conversation me and you were actually having, Moody, probably like a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago, when we were talking about like the graveyard and how some people like hold their breath when they
Mm-hmm.
when they drive by it. And then it was like, we were talking about like, well, do we have to do that? And I was like, I processed like, now that I have this information, is that something I want to apply? And I was like, no, I think I want to just keep doing what I've been doing. And so that was no longer an agreement that I had, so how everybody has their different beliefs and they're rooted in a certain
Mm-hmm.
foundation, but if you believe them, then they're true.
Right.
That
You gave
is
power to it.
another testimony to that, right? If you give power to it.
Yes. If you
Like some
believe
people
in it,
obsess
then it
themselves
will
with
be.
numbers or like the way words are said. Like people who say grand rising because they believe good morning is like saying,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
glad
the
you're
wordplay.
morning. And I'm like, yo, if I don't think about it and you know my intention behind the word, don't you think I'm actually being like buenos dias?
Yeah, maybe we should say that instead. You know,
I'm about to just say it in Spanish because these motherfuckers playing with the grand
this
rising. I'm gonna
wordplay.
hit all my little hoes up with the buenos dias in the sunshine
But
emoji.
it follows with the first chapter, what's it again? The domestication, no, domestication and the dream of the planet. It's like when, you start to say no.
Hmm.
It's like that's when you start realizing that, people don't hold that much weight in your life. They don't really control your mind like we may think before, like learning something like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they put
I
themselves
think
on a
that's what people,
pedestal.
right? Or you put the people around you on a pedestal. Kind of like when we were talking about that, the guy that this was in the Anatomy of the Spirit, but the guy that didn't want to quit his job because he had people depending on him, and he was like a
Hmm.
dentist, and it developed into a physical, a health problem that ended up
Yeah.
killing him. And so your biography becomes your biology, becomes your perception, becomes your personal hell or your personal heaven, and how you perceive the world contributes to how that is for you. And so, like you said, it goes hand in hand to whatever you believe, that is the truth, right?
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
makes you more intentional with your beliefs, with the things, energies that you put out. And I even used to, and I'll say this and then I'll play the messages. I used to think that if I didn't say it out loud, then it wasn't, you know, it was between me and myself, and like it wasn't a manifestation yet. And really
Yeah,
being
it's like I know what
on
you mean.
Right, right. And you're really being honest with myself and being like, no, like if I hear it, it's still true. It's still manifested. It's still a spell. It's still a prayer. And so it causes you to be way more intentional. And you pick and choose your battles. And it's not a symbol of that. I think that's why they say it's a symbol of growth, because you really just think about it, your energy. And when you value yourself and your energy, you're not just going to give it to anyone and anything. So to these messages.
Hey guys, yeah, this book changed my life. Funny enough, that's what I was trying to be, and then I saw it in print. And my friend who lives in Kenya recommended it to me, and I bought it the same day, and it's one of the best books I have ever read. Truly.
Yes. Yes,
What's up,
yes,
Anna
yes.
Tooties? Toodles.
Anna
Toodles.
Toodles. Anna
Yeah.
Toodles.
How you doing? Yeah, this book is really phenomenal. Um, I think that there's a lot of books like Moody was talking about The Secret. I brought up The Law of Happiness and The Anatomy of the Spirit, and they all have like different roots, and I think that they're all based in the same foundation, because like the Law of Happiness is written kind of from like a Christian point of view. I think that the Four Agreements is kind of written from a very naturalistic point of view, and the Anatomy of the Spirit and the Secret. What I will say the Anatomy of the Spirit, and then you can kind of tell me what you think the Secret is kind of based off of. But the Anatomy of the Spirit is the combination of, medicine, westernized medicine, and spirituality and intuition. And there's a lot of different roots in it, but they all have the same foundation. So yeah, what kind of essence does the Secret give?
The Secret, I feel like, I don't know, that's the first one I was given. So, but everybody's journey is different. But I would see it as the secret is like, what is the secret to life? Like how to successfully like live life happily, successfully, financially full, things of that nature. Like how do I become successful? How do I reach my goals? And the secret is it lies within you. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you believe like this, like the four agreements, if you believe that it will be a thing, if the feeling matches the emotion, then it is a manifestation. It is a thing. You can create your own reality. And they teach you how to manifest in that book. I that book was a book that I kind of used like when I do my personal oracle reads, and I just, randomly pick a card. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I would randomly open a page in the book and I would read whatever that page was, and then I would go about my day, and it would be just wicked crazy, the synchronicity in what I read either that morning before my day started or at the end of the day after my day was over. So, yeah, that's the secret.
Lolo, you got anything to say? I got a long thought, so I want to make sure I include you just in case.
Uh, yeah. The last note I really took on that video was actually I am looking up those books, by the way. I was at I'm at work or whatever, multitasking, but I found those two books on Apple Books, so it should be good. The Anatomy of Happiness, I don't see an audiobook for it, but like that book is like $3.99, and that's by Dr. Gumpert. Is that correct?
It's it's The Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss, and then it's The
Ah,
Law of Happiness, and I
I
can't
have that one
remember
too.
the author.
Okay, The Anatomy of the Spirit. That's where I messed up. Okay, so the last note I had from that video was about gossip, because this happens on stereo all the time, where you like make a bad opinion of others, right? And they're like, yeah, so and
Yeah.
so is like a woman hater, right? And then you go there and you're like, okay, here we go. Let's get ready for the woman hating. And then it doesn't happen, and you're like, wait a minute, huh? Some people they do it all the time, but other people it's weird. So I feel like what we should do, I guess instead of throwing adjectives on people, is state the actions of that party and how it makes you feel, and then we can receive honest feedback instead of creating echo chambers, which creates a more factual environment for everyone.
I love that, love.
Thank you.
I love that.
That was
Hey,
my little
what?
note for that part. Big facts, big facts.
Yes, I like I just told you yesterday. After we were getting into being impeccable with your word and basically intentional with your energy at another situation, and I had to really
Yeah, you told me
decide,
the
like we
actions of
talked
that
about.
person. And that
Yeah,
was
and I
like,
was like,
oh, here we go.
yeah, I had to really decide like how much I wanted it to matter and what, like, did I want to let it change the perception that I had, and had to really like work through it. Actually, several times that day. Like not just
Dang.
one. And
Yeah.
well, because what I'm learning is like as far as being intentional with my energy, there's like a lot of places I'm not. And like when you actually start focusing in, you're like, oh, I do that too. Oh, okay, I do that too. Okay, I have to not think about that, and I have to not engage in that. And well, yeah, I shouldn't. I really shouldn't be giving energy to this, and I really shouldn't be thinking about that. And it's like constant, especially because I have anxiety and I'm an overthinker. So thoughts running through my mind are constant, and a lot of the
Yeah.
times I just kind of let them go, and I, I think them through, right? But I
Right.
don't process them. I just let them flourish.
Mm.
And I think I've been in the process ever since, like I said, really reading this, of like trying to think about where I'm putting my energy, because I'm tired, and I've been tired. In the last couple of days, I'm like feeling a little bit more energized. And I think I've just been like trying to decide what I want to give my energy to, but like on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? And I'm actually, I think for
Yes,
the
Right.
first time,
I think we all are.
yeah,
Yeah.
starting,
You're not alone.
right. I think I'm for the first time actually starting to realize all the different ways that I'm not intentional. You know, even with being intelligent and spiritual and all these things, it's like, yeah, I do allow a lot of these thoughts to change my biology and, you know, contribute to some of the things that I say contribute to why I can't or I don't, you know, and it's like an everyday thing. And I'm like realizing that, but in that I keep telling myself I'm like one day at a time. When I start to get frustrated, like, why can't it just be done now? Because
Right.
I
Like
just like
overnight,
everybody else.
build room.
Yes,
I
Yeah.
love
no,
instant
girl.
gratification, just like the rest of people. But it's like, okay, one
Exactly.
day at a time. And I'm trying to be the support system to myself that I have been
Mm.
being to everybody else. And it's a slow, slow process. And it's like literally every second of the day. But I am redirecting my energy. I've been having more talks about positive things or just trying to read, trying to do something positive. I had a show last night,
Building.
you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, and like just trying to be more intentional. So, I don't want to go on a rant. I had a thought about personal power, which was a combination of the anatomy of the spirit and the four agreements. And I had a thought about it, but it's going to be a long one. So I'm going to play the messages, and then I'll let you guys comment, and then I'll go from there. But personal power is my next thought.
All right.
Okay.
In fact, all these kind of books. I mean, my bookshelf is heaving with meta medicine. I'm actually training myself to do. I'm training at the moment something called somatic experiencing, which is pretty awesome. So this is right up my alley. But anything you talked about anatomy of the spirit earlier on. Is that by Caroline Miss? Caroline Miss was her name. I've read all her books actually, but yeah, really fascinating. All this work, the mind-body connection and stuff. Yeah, really interesting.
I just want to say, hey, Fletch. Hi.
What's
How you
that?
doing?
I wanted to comment on what you were speaking on earlier, Elle. Um, like yesterday when you were going through that thing with, the person or whatever, I think it's better that you release that energy instead of like holding on to it. Because holding a grudge takes a whole lot more energy than just releasing it. And I feel like when you like talk to other people and you're like, am I crazy for feeling this way? It's like, no, you're very much valid. This person's just like, making you feel this way, like it's all valid. And if you're crazy, I feel like me and a few other people on steer are going to tell you you're crazy for doing the things that you do. And another thing was about, I guess it's like kind of like goes into the personal power thing, is like the way that I speak. This is something I told my friend because I was like, I be saying some wild shit. And I was like, what? I think the way that I speak to myself determines how I speak to others, because I really be hard on myself sometimes. I like when I was having panic attacks and I did not know I was having a panic attack. I was like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Come on, this ain't even that hard. Like, come on. I didn't know I was having a
Oh
panic attack. I
shit.
just knew my chest was closing in on itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, but now I see
Yeah.
I should be gentler with myself and others.
Mm-hmm.
Big facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and girl, I'm proud of you. I just have to say
Thank you.
that. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of both of y'all. Shit.
Yeah, we be trying because I know L. Well, L gets like the biggest brunt on on stereo. I feel like because some people will just kind of like sit there and kind of take it. Like me, I listen to people, so I just let them like talk themselves in circles. But L will be like, no, stop yourself there, and that can be really frustrating. So I know like it can be frustrating for herself and the other person. So I'm just glad
Yeah,
that
because
she's getting some more
I
positive
totally
talks.
get
And
it. Yeah,
yeah,
I get it, man. Because I struggled with that as well. Like I was exhausted all the time. It's like it's exhausting being me, and I'm just tired of being tired. Like just because I wake up,
I was gonna say, do
why am
you
I
see my
tired?
bio right now? Like if you click on my
No, what
face, do
is
you
it?
see Fannie Lou
Let
Hamer?
me I'm
Yes, I have a
sick
quote
and
for
tired of
everybody.
being sick and tired.
You're a damn mess for adding that.
1964. I've been tired since 1964. We've been tired since 1964 at least.
Period. Oh, but what? Oh, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say my thought to elaborate on the personal power was I was thinking about this, and I would call it a download that I understand 80%, right? So I still am processing this exactly, but it's like I'll just explain it. as far as the personal power. So in the Anatomy of the Spirit, there's one example where after all her training and then she became an intuitive, she works with a doctor that, he'll give her the name and an age of a person. She'll be like, okay, so he need to let go. Like she's that good, right? So he did that with a person, and uh she told him what she thought was wrong with the person intuitively, so not medically, like she's holding on to something. I'm getting a lot of uh negative energy from this area of her body. That's where the disease would probably develop because it's strong, that analyst, right? Analysis. So he's like, well, do you think we should just do psychotherapy? And she's like, I I don't feel like she has enough personal power to be able to handle that and it actually help her progress. It might just do something worse to her, and it was help her for a little bit, but it would not sustain. And that was the first time that she thought of personal power being necessary in order to heal. So in Anatomy of the Spirit, she kind of breaks down the Kabbalah, or she breaks down Islam, Christianity, and the chakras into a foundation of truth, right? And then contributes that to how that can be perceived in a physical world, right? So she describes medicine, like if I have a headache, instead of doing crown work or whatever it would be required to, intuitively or spiritually fix that, you take medicine. That's passive healing. She describes doing the work and shadow work, to an extent, active healing. She doesn't negate, because obviously she's medically inclined. So she's like, in some cases, yes, it's necessary to have certain medicines, but to rely on them wouldn't do anything. So my thought was basically, in personal power, through the evolution of time, we have been learning to further ourselves from God or spirit or whatever it is. Just know it's not you, and you can't even talk to it. You have to go to this pastor or this priest to talk to them, because they would only talk to me and tell me what to tell you. You know what I mean? And I actually, before we started this talk, I was listening to this thing that this lady, Kim Burrell, I guess she's like a pastor or something. I don't know too much about her, but she says a lot of inflammatory things, and there was just one service, they showed a clip. She was just going off of people. She was like, some of y'all, she was like, everybody looks great. Don't worry. I haven't chosen anybody to be ugly yet. And some of y'all got hats on covering it anyway. She's a pastor.
Yeah,
What
yeah, I
verse
heard
was
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
don't
part in the
even
Bible
remember.
did, right? And I was
Bruh.
I
just
don't,
thinking
What
about
verse
how,
was
I don't
this?
even remember what that was.
right. I was like,
I'm
what part
at the
of the
same
Bible
time.
is this? She was talking about sometimes you got to ask your friends how much money you have to even be my friends. Like it was just like very derogatory. And I was thinking about how it's funny, be impeccable with your word, but a lot of the people that we trust to be the gatekeepers of the word and the main people to receive it do whatever with it. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
how just like we've just naturally adapted into this life of passive healing, and that it's further implicated by teaching us, like in spirituality, that it's further from ourselves, and making us lazy. Like we wouldn't have to do the work. At some point we wouldn't have to do the work, or at some point that life would just be easy. Like I have like moments like every day where I was like, okay, when I was a kid, I was like, if I wear glasses for a certain amount of time, I won't need them, right? They're like, no, you'll always need glasses. I was like, what? I had glasses since I was
What's
like
the
6. I
prescription
didn't know
for?
that until 13. When I was 13, I was like, so how much longer, doc? They were like, eternity. I was like, what the fuck?
Eternity.
What are you talking about? I
That
thought this
part.
was temporary, like in that
Mm.
the growth and evolution is this consistent thing. But just in the thought of personal power, about how sometimes we get to the point where some people just don't have enough personal power. to be able to heal, and how important that is to find that sense of power. Like we left off the last time. What makes you, what gives you power? And I had a couple of answers, but to be honest, the first like three that came to mind had something to do with making somebody else outside of me happy, like helping people, or, you know, be like being kind to people. You know, like it was always something about somebody else, which doesn't mean that's a bad thing, but it was like, what gives you power? And I couldn't think of things that just made me happy outside of being of service. And it's like, oh, okay, well, damn, that's something that I would have to reevaluate, because that is contributing to, like we said, that exhaustion, being too tired, or feeling like there's a lot of blockage, you know,
So you could
when you're
ask, how do
trying
you
to
serve
be intuitive.
yourself instead of serving others?
You said
Right.
what?
That's a way to, like, you know, let my brain know that it's okay, but at the same time, that is what the question is asking. You know, that's literally the
Right.
same thing. So
Yeah.
to have it be something where I'm already like in service of others, and then being of more service of others, and then, you know, of course, being
It works service
of
for
service
self.
Even
to
more.
others. You know, like it's like, okay, well, that I told you, I was like, I'm gonna have to think on that. I'm gonna have to think on it and actually start processing these things. So it really contributes
Mm,
to making sure that you have personal power. And
mm,
like one of the stories too, it's like a dentist that didn't want to leave his job. He developed pancreatic cancer, like, and then eventually ended up dying. Rest in peace. But he didn't want to change, right? So sometimes it's like you just get caught up in the perceived that if I'm in hell, I'm just supposed to be, and being able to
mm.
change that perception, you know, to what you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I find the book just so beautiful, like almost poetic in a way. Because I listen to the audios because I swear I feel like I'm like an octopus. I be doing like five things at once. And listening to a book is, more sufficient. And yeah, so just adding that in there.
Hmm. There are a couple of different ways that I had to realize that I wasn't being very impeccable with my word. And one of the examples was, like I said, yesterday with Lowe's. To kind of to give like a little bit of a background, I was like just in a random conversation with some people. One person took it very, very seriously. There was three of us. Only one got upset, but then it ended up being a situation where I was the perceived bad guy, especially because Dark Truth. I'll just say his name because we all know this nigga. This, especially because Dark Truth came in right after. It was like, Elle, I want to talk to you. I was like, no,
This guy. Every
no, I don't want
time.
to talk to
This
you. I don't want to
guy.
talk to you.
I'm
He asked me
Crazy.
questions that he's already asked me before. I was like, dude, you've already asked me this. We've already talked about I don't even know. We weren't even talking about feminism. It wasn't even like a serious talk. He just joined in like,
Mhm.
you. I was like, no, please, no. So after that, it became the situation, and then on top of that, it was funny about like people trying to like slander you. Isn't they also want like, but you could be my wife, like type shit. And I was just like, on stereo. Like I know I have a cute avatar. I check on her every day.
What?
You know, that's the Virgo Venus. Like like that's, you know, like I make sure her colors is matching. I get it. Look at her. Lips just moving. Juicy. Juicy
Oh,
fruit. See, juicy
yikes.
fruit. See? You know, but as
Why
far
did
as
you say
emoji,
it?
I wanted to see the lips move, you know, all sexy like. Cause like
I can like
people be
hear it in
really,
my ear.
because people freaking, I don't know, they be like falling in
Literally
love on this app, but
sarcastic.
it became
Like,
like this whole like feminist thing, black woman thing, and I'm already in a real life situation that kind of reflects that. So I was like, what the hell? Where did this come from? And I was like, is this something I want to give my energy to? And like I said, several times that day. So at
hmm,
one point that day, I processed it by myself. By the end of it, I was like, okay, I have peace with this. And then another situation happened, came back. I was like, oh, so then I had to talk again. But instead of, I guess, releasing it in the usual way that I would, which would probably be some way negative. Yeah, I called a like-minded individual that is going to give me like real life advice low and it's like, yeah, so this is what, am I tripping? Yeah, I don't get it. All right, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll
Mm-mm.
talk later, you know, and
Not to
being
do this
able
to
to,
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. This is okay.
right, and
For
it's a
real, because I don't
process.
have time.
It's a process. Sometimes you got to double check. Sometimes you have to like to be like, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
found peace, 6 hours prior to, and then when it came back up, I was elated and exalted too much so to where I could respond. So I didn't. I'm not that changed that fast. So just being honest with myself, like they said, being like Don said, being accountable, but not like beating yourself up because that is still, you know, contributing to that reality of hell. But then it's also very like victimizing, you know, like because I was gonna ask, like with being impeccable to your word and knowing that people will try to cast spells on you, what do you guys think is the balance between this person is saying this thing to hurt me, or this person is saying this thing that maybe I should reflect on?
Um, I could feel like it could be a balance of the two because sometimes we're just not aware of how we act sometimes, and sometimes someone will tell us, especially if we are at that point in our life, you know what I mean? Like how you are at this point in your life where you're trying to tailor and tweak, those parts of yourself so that you're able to fully just live life happily in contentment at least. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's a little bit of both because someone can not tell you who you are, but like kind of show you how you're acting. And then in a way too, it's like something maybe you need to revisit. Like if it's still triggering you, then maybe you need to revisit that. So it's not really, I can't really look at it in a negative aspect at this point because it's just so much, gosh, darn on negative energy floating around here. It's so I just gotta think optimistically continuously, even when it seems like the world is kind of going to shit.
There was something I was gonna speak on earlier because I was talking about like religion and like how people just go mindlessly into it. Recently I met somebody on Stereo who does not go to the church, the building, but reads the Bible like religiously, but does not believe in religion. So I was like, okay, cool, teach me something. And so I feel like the fruits of the spirit is still very valid. Like when you see somebody who's always angry, you know what I'm saying? Like a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So when you see somebody who's like rah 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 all the time on some BS, then that's a BS tree. You know what I'm saying? Like an apple tree can't make oranges and stuff. So you should just definitely like watch. That's what I do. Like I watch people on Stereo. I follow them, of course, and then I see the talks that they have. I'm like, dude, they do this all the time. I have no time for this BS. I don't think they usually end up blocked, but I think I just don't follow them. There's only a few people I've blocked them. But that guy, yeah, he does this to everybody. And also that like Moody, I don't know if I told you. But I just told Elle yesterday, I was like, she's probably the sixth, seventh or eighth chick from Stereo to come to me and say, hey, there's this guy on here and he's mad that I won't give him any play.
Huh.
This happens consistently on Stereo. These boys come here into their fantasy world and think we're gonna buy into their BS dreams that they're trying to sell, and really be like, you know what? I really think he's a great guy. But in reality, me and Elle were talking yesterday. I was like, Dr. Dre gonna end up with Dre the therapist gonna end up with like 14 wives, even though he already got a wife. And we're gonna have to tell her she got 14 days off a month because he's the only one really showing up for her.
Oh,
For
no,
real.
for real. No,
For
for
real.
real. Oh, listen. because I've had some talk with some guys in the back, and I've been like, "What's going on with that?" Uh-oh. What?
Oh, that sounds,
Like a
it's
chipmunk.
like very messed up. Yeah. I was like, what's going on? I think your service or something's messed up, Lo. Oh, you sound like a chipmunk for real.
You sound
That's
so
crazy.
real. Oh my God.
I told the witch doctor I was in love with you. I told the witch doctor you didn't love me too. Okay, sorry. Why we get that figured out? She's reconnecting. Okay. Um, I was gonna say I think my
Okay.
idea of it is okay. There you go. There you go. What were you saying?
Yeah. I thought you broke stereo, bro. I was like, is she using a voice changer? I think it was my service. You're good. Yo, I wish
I
y'all
was
could have heard
with
what
it.
I heard. That shit was weird.
Oh, did we sound like chipmunks too?
No, you sounded slowed down, like really bad. I was like, is she trying to do the voice change to imitate the men? Because that's funny.
That
Okay, that
was
makes sense because
hilarious.
you were hella sped up. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
that's
dude, that's
crazy.
funny.
In the
That's funny.
Matrix. What I was
Uh-huh.
gonna say, I guess, about accepting spells and stuff is a concept that she brought up in Anatomy of the Spirit. And I use these references intertwined because I feel like they relate. And I have kind of like a logical brain. And so the Four Agreements is written logically, but in a very kind of, like I said, naturalistic, kind of spiritually inclined way. And anatomy of the spirit is very like scientific and straight to the point and very, and that's a language I'm familiar with. That's a language I speak, and I can get that, right. And so as far as accepting spells and things of that nature, I think that she says that energy doesn't lie, right. So even if somebody says something to me and they lie, there will be an energy transmuted, that will give me the idea that something's not quite right, right? We just have that connection to everybody. That's also that personal power. When they said don't do a sin against yourself, that would also be sinning against others because we are connected. That was the download I was trying to get to. Got it. so
Oh, snap. Yeah, man.
Yes. I'm glad you remember that
Heck
so
one.
yeah. So at least in that, I think that the difference is there's an energy, you know, when somebody is telling you something, right? Even me, I could be saying something truthful to somebody, like that is something they need to work on. But if I'm angry at them at that moment, that is not a spell they have to accept. You know, that's not that's a that I think the energy that would be wrapped up in the message would be negativity. So I think that that's like a difference, right? You could be saying truth, but it's like the message, right? But I also feel like there's something that hits you when you hear something true. So I used to work on the aspect of if like, if one person's like, uh, you're really controlling. You can use that for this personal situation. Maybe in this situation you feel like that, or I don't know, however you want to do it. But if people in different areas of your life, are using this common thing, I would say that's worth considering, right? In that, it's also worth considering the situation. So like Lo said, somebody wants something from you, you're not going to give it to them. Now you're ugly bitch, or you're stupid, or you're
oh,
feminist, or whatever the
you
case.
ugly
Ain't that a
anyway.
trip?
Right. So it's like you can naturally kind of feel the energy of that and know that's not necessarily the case, or just know yourself, have enough personal power to know the difference
I'm a
between
bad
somebody telling
bitch.
you something. Yeah, between somebody trying to tell you something to help you and somebody trying to do something to hurt you. So maybe that is another
Mm-hmm.
thing about having enough personal power to tell the difference. Because, oh yeah, this actually goes into it. Don said that they can only plant a seed in ground that's fertile for it. So they can only plant a seed of negativity in a mind that can bear the negativity and is made to grow that negativity. They can only plant the seed of positivity in a mind that is ready to grow that positivity. So it works
Oh,
simultaneously. So I
yeah.
think that that would be the difference for me, is that when you're trying to plant a seed of positivity, and I would say that I can grow a positive mind. You know, I'm working on myself, working on the crops. That is good gardening. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it would be difficult to
Mm-hmm.
try to completely just plant a seed of negativity, knowing that not only the intention, but the, you know, where it's coming from is most likely projection or just a false
Mhm.
narrative.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I get
I
where you're
I
coming
also
from with
realized.
that too. Okay. Oh my God.
Sorry. Okay. So, one thing I realized, like in the book, was like, okay, so let's say you're being told that you're ugly, right? And then you get that first little bit of bad spell, right? And then somebody says you're beautiful, and then you're like, oh wow, I'm beautiful. But then he said when that falls through, I guess, or like somebody else calls you ugly or whatever, um, it's further reinforced the second time. And I just thought that was wild. I was just like, yo, I go through that all the time because like my parents were always talking about my size and my weight. So I was like, damn, I'm fat. Then I go to school and they're like, oh, you're fat. Then I meet somebody like, oh, you look good, you're beautiful. But then like once, we break up or whatever, then the rest of the world is like, you're fat. And I'm just like, well, now it's even further enforced. But then what Moody was saying was maybe we need to readdress that. Like maybe we need to go back and see like what the issue is there. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe I really need to address this directly. And it's like beyond losing weight. It's like all these other things, like self-esteem and whatever. And definitely that positive soil that Elle was talking about. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Also just like as like a whatever you call it, I have these aloe plants, right? And they're dying because they are too big for the pot. Meaning there's not enough nutrients in the soil for those roots to reach. And I'm just like, yeah, we need good soil. We need a lot of soil in order to grow. So yeah, I thought all that connected.
I love that. I love that analogy you used. Because yeah, that plant gotta spread. Yeah.
Big facts. Gotta spread, gotta grow, get big, get wide, get tall. Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
So
I'm going to
what's
play
going
these
on, you
messages real
guys?
quick.
Okay.
Oh, shout out to listen.
Yes, some discernment.
Shout out to all the listeners and salute to the panel. The Four Agreements, one of my favorite books. Probably read it more than any other book. Be impeccable with your word. I always took that to mean be honest. As time has gone on, I also think it has something to do with being precise, direct, along with being honest, and therefore you're clear with your intentions, both with yourself and to who you're conveying a message to. So it's interesting how, if you're patient, these agreements reveal more.
I love that. Shout out to
Okay.
you, Dub.
Shout out, shout out. I think that that is kind of what I was experiencing. Like I said, with reading these books and having, like you said, these synchronicities, you start to really be able to see it, apply it, and create create that perception and realize where you've been going wrong in creating that perception.
I just wanted to shout out Technical T right quick because that's my friend that I mentioned. I guess I spoke her up into this little show that we having because she's the one that reads the Bible religiously but does not, submit to religion. So that's why I was telling y'all about the fruit of the spirit, like the good fruit and the bad fruit. Like an
Mm-hmm.
apple tree can't grow oranges, an orange tree can't grow apples. Like as much as you want it to, it ain't gonna happen. You know what type of tree you dealing
Yeah.
with when you see it. Yeah.
Sure. Facts, facts. Shout out to you, Technical T. Yeah, I met her in one of the
Shout out to
ciphers
you.
with Bobby Digital Z and the 50 Flames gang, gang. So shout
That's
out to
what's up.
you and shout out to you, Serenity. Welcome.
Yep, shout out to all the listeners. Arteme. I think I did this again. Dub, Technical T, Serenity. We kind of went over a couple of things. So being impeccable with your word. Also, yeah, being honest with yourself and others. I kind of also summarized it for myself as being intentional with your energy and the energy you put out to others, the energy you put back to yourself, and talking about how words are spells. So, anything you say or like a prayer is a spell, so you don't want to, like, just like it would be in a bad nature to pray against somebody. When you say something negative, you feel something negative. We also talked about the fact that I used to think that if I didn't say it out loud, it didn't count. And really having to do the continuous internal and external work um, to kind of create this reality of the reality of your own personal heaven or hell. And they Don in the Four Agreements also said at the end of it, saying that you could be living in your own personal heaven because you are surrounded. Okay, you could be living in your own personal heaven, surrounded by people living in their own personal hell because you are immune to it. And that really spoke to me because as a black woman, you know what I mean? It could truly be a personal hell if I allowed it to be. If I allowed the reality that they want to create for every person of color, every this, every that, every plant, every tree, if I really allowed it to be, it really could be a personal hell. And that doesn't negate from the real life physical world issues. Because I also think that there should be a divine balance between understanding what lesson I'm here for now in this physical world, but understanding that I don't have to succumb to all the things of the world just because I'm here, and finding that balance of it. But I'm trying to been on a slow journey of creating this personal heaven. But one thing that I had to realize is I guess in being more intentional with my words, or impeccable with my words, or intentional with my energy, that there are a lot of different ways that you know I would just let some of these negative thoughts flourish, and let these things attach to me. Because I think sometimes there's this thought that as a high vibrational person, sometimes you won't encounter negativity. I think that you will. You just know not to give your energy to it, so it can't live. You can't. If you don't water it, it can't grow. And so, knowing how to recognize it and detach from it, and be more intentional, which is like a everyday thing, and a very consistent. People on the street, doing random stuff, like, just like there's random acts of kindness, there's random acts of buffoonery. And you have to be like, I'm not going to give energy to that, even in myself, even if I wouldn't say anything out loud, like not even personally.
I was definitely gonna link that back to the philosophy quote that always runs in my head. It goes, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So basically, I think that's an anonymous quote. It might be the actual person. But the thing is, it's basically based off of, like, what echo chamber do you put yourself in? Do you put yourself in your parents' echo chamber? Because I don't. My parents hate me because I'm not just like them. But if I put myself in that echo chamber, I'd be depressed all the time. Or if I put myself in, like, I'm in Hialeah, for Miami. That's where people speak Spanish. If I put myself in this echo chamber, I'm gonna feel terrible because I don't speak Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what is your focus? Like, where do you put yourself at? So that way you see who you truly are for yourself. So for me, it'd be like medical, somewhere between medical and musical, and those two I'm completely comfortable. But if I put myself in my parents' echo chamber or some other person's echo chamber, I'm just not gonna fit the bill. That's why I put myself as a no label when people ask me, like, so for the LGBTQ, what are you? No label. Don't ask too many questions. I don't fit in no box. Big facts.
That was good, Mom.
I was gonna say Moody.
Well, I mean, I don't, y'all, my brain
Is it spinning right
has
now?
been absorbing so much information.
We're learning
It's
from each other
like,
because y'all dropping books on me. All I did was drop a quote. Y'all dropping books
I'm,
on me though. I got three
it's
books to read
still
right now.
poetic. Oh,
Oh, okay, this is
it's
true.
still
This is true.
poetic. Yes,
This is true.
it's just, hey, I'm loving it. I like even how we're even us three up here, even on the app of stereo, uh, we're able to have a conversation and everybody is heard. We're
Mhm.
not being an echo chamber to each other at all whatsoever. But the thing is that, because I totally get that. I was that doormat, the welcome mat at the front door. And I got tired
Mhm.
of being walked on, stepped all over. But I had to get up. You know what I'm saying? I had to pick myself up so that I wouldn't be a victim to my own doing, basically, that saboteur. But even chiming off of what Elle said about in the first agreement, him saying like we become immune to hell, and I that hit on another level, that hit different, because it was just like, yeah, like I've already accepted life on life's terms, right? So I do know that I can only change so much at such a rate of quote unquote time, because I don't truly believe in that either. But yeah, that's just my little input on that. But yeah, my brain information.
And one of the things that seems to emerge from being consistently impeccable with your word is that a contract is forged between who's communicating, with the idea that you don't have to manage your perceptions of how someone else is perceiving you. So therefore, it reduces neuroticism, keeps you open, keeps you listening actively, and also suggests that any exchange should be mutually beneficial so that both parties are benefiting and moving forward. So if we meet in the middle, then there's a unified, shared sense of discovery.
I always talk about that symbiotic relationship. I think that the relationship you share with the world and your perceived perception of your hell, perceived perception, your perceived reality should be that of a symbiotic relationship, which is that you're getting what you're giving. And so that is why the focus becomes self, right? And the radiation of just a high vibration, you know. And that doesn't mean, I don't think that that means that you'll never come in contact with negativity. I just think that that means that you'll be better equipped to handle it, right? There's always going to be conflict. And even in, I think, in all these truths, like with Taoism, there is a divine feminine, a divine masculine. So in that, there's a divine balance. So I think that understanding that, accepting that, and also not having control over it, but knowing when to flow with what, right? Like we were talking about, knowing when something applies, it's a seed of positivity, and when something doesn't apply, and it's a seed of negativity, and knowing the difference between those things and trying to really navigate through that while having a balance of knowing that you are in the world, not of it, but knowing that you are still in the world.
Shout out to the listeners again. Dub, Keyshawn, Keyshawn, Miss Fab Bliss, and Arteme. Shout out to you guys, and go ahead and chime in. What do you think, being impeccable with your word means to you?
When Elle first told me about this, like we were talking yesterday, and she said, "Be impeccable with your word." To me, it kind of felt like an integrity thing. Like, people say a lot of stuff, but they don't back it up. There's no follow through. So I feel like that's also a part of it. Like, hey, I'm gonna blah blah blah, but if you don't do it, then you're kind of creating your own hell because you didn't do what you said you were gonna do. But when I actually listened to the video, I was like, oh, this is like letting bad spells in. Like when people tell you bad stuff about you, and you actually believe it.
Yeah, that's how my ancestors, my elders say, that's how voodoo works. You have to believe in it. Now, would you?
Mm.
It's a state of mind. Anything, any ritualistic thing, you will have to believe in it for it to affect you. So if you don't believe in this and it doesn't fear you at all deep down inside, you know what I'm saying, then it won't even be a thing. Just like Elle was saying, if I don't believe it, then it's not it.
Ignorance is bliss, right? That's how it goes, right?
That's how it goes.
Hey.
Hello? Okay. I'll chime in. I appreciate the conversation. I really just wanted to listen at first, but I'm glad I got a little bit of what you were saying. I think being impeccable with your word really starts with yourself, because if you don't believe that you're going to do the things that you say you're going to do, then it's kind of a mute point to promise anybody else anything, because you've already lost confidence in yourself. So I think that that's the seed for me. The most important thing about being impeccable with your word, something that I try to do,
Mm-hmm.
is do what I say I'm going to do for me first, and don't lie to
Mm.
myself first, because if I have a problem lying to myself, then I can lie to anybody. That's all.
Right. If you can't
Right,
love yourself, how you gonna love somebody else? Yeah,
right,
100%.
Yeah,
Makes
right.
amen
sense.
up in here.
I think a lot of, amen. I think a lot of times people don't realize, and I think that's why he was talking about being impeccable to your words, is that the spells that people try to cast against you are really spells that they cast against themselves unless you accept that spell. So there are a lot of different ways that these things are rooted in, yes, your belief system, but also what you accept. And in being intentional with your energy, you know, like I said, you understand if there's a root for positivity, negativity, and it kind of creates this higher understanding of it that comes with peace, because you understand where somebody's coming from in the earthly realm, and you can't judge them, you can't feel bad for them, but you don't accept it. And it puts you in a place to really process and think about the spells that you try to cast onto others, because you understand what they're doing, what people do to themselves when they try to cast spells. You know what I mean? And I've been in that position where I've tried to cast a spell against somebody else and it's backfired on me. Not saying that it was purposeful, like I did a voodoo spell, but I'm saying negative things to somebody, right? And we've all been in
Mm.
a situation where, hey, I wanna vent, I want to say something negative, or I want to yell or cuss you out. I'll cuss a nigga out for sure. So it's like really being like, okay, is that being intentional with my energy? What do I get from this? What does it do for me? What does it, where, really actually processing that. And so, and you processing these things, you process the spells other people, you know, say to you. So I think that it's not necessarily a nature of being completely dismissive once you hear it. I think it's a nature of processing it and then having intuition, having intuition help you kind of have the discernment to know, was this a positive seed? Was this for my higher good? Was this person saying something that actually I need to hear? Or are they trying to project something onto me? Because, like, isn't that the idea of projection? Is throwing, the energy of yourself towards somebody else? So
Yeah.
only if you accept
Hmm.
that energy doesn't lie. And there has to be a mutual, because that is also the law of the energy, that of the world that we live in. It has to be a mutual agreement energetically.
Yeah, you're right. And that's crazy because I had for the longest on my bio, and I've never read the book, but you best believe I'm about to get it on my notes. Anyway, so the thing is that even writing that statement, energy doesn't lie. When you said that, that was the synchronicity of things for me. I'm like, yo, what the I've been saying that, broad statement, for a while now, and then to just hear it again in another way, those are those confirmations, those validations you get from, I call it the spirit of the universe. You know what I'm saying? You get those, I see you, what I'm saying, you doing good or whatever, like just checking your steps, checking your work.
Yes, like as much as I try to tell people, oh, I don't want to be a leader and blah blah blah. Do you know that no matter what panel I go to, they be like, you're supposed to be a leader, right? And I'm like, bruh, okay, I guess
Mhm.
I'll
I
do
think we all,
it. No matter
and I
where I
don't want
go,
you
I
either.
thought anybody here and they'll be like, you're supposed, your life path is the number one, right? There's all these things in your thing that say you're supposed to be a leader. Yo, matter of fact, I was talking to these two
Oh,
boys the
I
other day.
know.
They was having girl problems and friend problems, and they was like, hey, you should be a pastor, right? You preaching, man. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna do something, bro. I'm gonna figure it
Speaking
out.
that good word.
Every day, man. Just an echo from your voice. Hey, man, you remember you're supposed to be a poke poke. Hey, remember you're supposed to be a leader, right? Poke poke. Hey, remember you're supposed to be a leader, right?
Yeah,
Echo
we
in the
gotta
universe, just for
we
confirmation.
we
Yup.
have to get together and get some spoken word because I have a very interesting way of doing it, and I think you're gonna like
Oh yeah, let's go, man. I think I sent you my poetry page. If not,
it.
I will send it to you
Yeah, you did. And
now.
Elle, I know you're an artist, musician as well, and this is a way that we can express ourselves and still bring awareness to what's going on by using the synchronicity of things in life.
No, stop.
And I like um, what you're saying because it's so true. And I was just like, I've studied the word so long, and now it's to the point where if it's like, say for instance, the word says, be angry and sin not, right? Because a lot of people be angry for no reason because they're lacking. That's envy. You know what I mean? It's so many levels to that itself. Now, if you have a righteous anger, it's not saying you can hit someone or do something like that. Now, if someone is really doing something to you and you end up really with a righteous reason, like you really have a true reason to be upset, that is something the Lord will make a judgment on. So if it's just, trust.
Oh, while I have this thought, I don't want to
I
lose it.
sorry, I ran out of time.
Okay, so I don't want to lose it, but it holds relevance to the first chapter in the book. This is before the first agreement, and he says that we're not afraid to die. That's not what we're afraid of. Is what we're truly afraid of is to live. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there.
I sorry, I ran out of time. I'm sorry, but it's just like I said. It's just so much more. I mean, I'm glad people love to read and stuff. I just like to. Now, I guess I'm just looking for someone that I could actually have some Bible studies with. I guess so. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
I'm
honest
always
with
down
you.
for
Bible
it.
study. Oh, I grew up Catholic. Yeah.
It's different, man. Technical feedback.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, it's totally different.
I think that it would be cool to. I'm not one to personally read the Bible myself. Not saying I wouldn't. I think that it's as far as educational pieces, um, I think that it's really good in this foundation, right? So I don't think that the Bible falls out of sorts with these books of truth, right? I think it's about interpretation. But what I would think that would be cool is the combination of having these different books and everybody have, like, we could plan a talk like that. Like, you come from the standpoint of the Bible, I would come from the standpoint of the anatomy of the spirit, Moody could come from the standpoint of the secret. Low could come from the standpoint of the four agreements, and us have a conversation not only about the differences but the similarities to really break down the differences, and maybe even, give me more inspiration as to why I need to make it a point to dive into that other book of truth. But I think that it would be interesting to talk about all the different ways that these books sync up.
Yeah, it bring I
There's
like
definitely
this I guess I like this way of Bible study. Okay. Yes. Yes, I like this way of Bible study because it's actually studying the Bible. I'm for studying books now and articles and things like that. So thank you, Elle, for that. Because yeah, I was about to reject it, and then you came in and said, do not close off your mind.
I'm definitely seeing an overlap between like what everybody's been saying on Syria, regardless of the thing. So I'm like, this would be pretty dope. Pretty dope.
We can't really
It's
hear
hard
you.
to
You
hear
gotta
you.
speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah, speak up.
I'm gonna step outside just a minute, guys. But what I was saying was, like as I like go like through these shows on stereo, like regardless of people's like belief and background and stuff, there's overlap. Like if you listen to this corner of stereo and that corner of stereo, even though they say they don't get along, they still overlap on some stuff. And I'm like, something's coming together here, guys. There's some truth that nobody can deny, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I feel like we need to have this discussion for sure, and have the overlap discussion. Yeah.
And that sounds wonderful because, listen, one thing I have learned is reading the Bible actually helped me to learn about these other books and to understand why these certain books are not in the Bible. And it helped me to understand a lot of people even getting their enlightenment and their inspiration to write these books actually is coming from the word of truth, just in a different way, you see. So that's deep, and I like that, and I am fair to that because, like I said, I don't knock nobody for reading what they read. It's just someone always come against me because what I read, because I don't take part in religion, none, and I still read the Bible though, yeah.
No, I think that would be incredibly beneficial for parties, all parties involved. But I feel like the only part that makes the Bible one of these like condemned things, whether you're so for it or you're against, is, to me, the religion aspect of it, right? So I think when it becomes a book of study of how to live a better life, I think it becomes one of those things that you can discuss and learn from, things of that nature. And I don't feel like yeah, I don't feel like there's any difference between anybody finding their truth, because like I said, the anatomy of the spirit, actually, technical T, I think you would like it, because what she does is she breaks down, with modern science in the medical field. Um, I believe it's Islamic like ideas like from the Quran, and then breaks down Christianity with it and the chakras, right? So it's a combination of like all four of these ideas, right? So it's like modern day, different books, and how it breaks down how these things are all speaking about intention, your power, energy centers, how it contributes to your physical health. And so it's not absent of not Christianity, because you said not religion, but it's not absent of the Bible. It's actually just inclusive of how, at the root of it, outside of the religion aspect, there are truths in it um, that correlate with these other books, like you said. So it's funny how outside of, like I said, the controlled religion part of it, we can understand that without having touched on all the books or read all the concepts. It's like, no, I understand that there is an energetic truth that we live by, whether we want to or not, you know and that contributes to making your own personal heaven or hell. And it's funny that he speaks on it, because that's also a testament of it, because that is somewhat, if you think about it, a religious view. But it's talking about creating the reality in this world that you want. Because I've talked several times about how, like, I will be talking about how it's frustrating that you don't always feel safe as a woman, like walking around. And I was like, maybe I could be a dragonfly. It's like, no, even female dragonflies might drop out of the freaking sky to avoid a male. You know what I mean? A male suitor. So I was like, Earth must be the lowest level of consciousness. It has to be. And even in that, if that is true, there is still a way to have the lifestyle that you want, and the life that you want, and the perceived heaven that you want. And that is through this higher level of consciousness. And that is the point of transcending through these lower levels of consciousness, is being able to master that. And all these books have underlining messages of how to do that. And I feel like that is the truth that is a part of that collective type of knowing. I think it's very influential and very powerful.
Yeah, and then I had a brain fart because, I just uploading so much information. But the thing is, the book of Psalms, like, if you know, you know, you know, something about that book. And I really need to, yeah, I'm interested in doing that. So, so I would be given the secret, the book of the secret, to reread, and then just like basically write down key points and then compare, like a book club in a way, but a book comparison club of different spiritual books. I like that. Yeah, I like it. But shout out to the listeners. Vote
At
for
some point,
me
I
if you.
will. Yeah, shout out to the listeners, Miss Fab Bliss, Artame, Technical T, Champ the Great. I'm gonna schedule that talk, and I'll be talking to everybody in the back chats about when works for everybody. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting, especially amongst like-minded individuals that are not coming, like we said, to debate, but just to compare, contrast, and find some kind of underlying truth, or reaffirm the underlying truths that we've learned, through studying, and be able to, I don't know, maybe inspire some other people in the process. But I'm gonna go ahead and play the messages real quick.
And when you learn the religion aspect of it, it said it is this: to go visit the widows and the orphans. And the religious part of the Bible is actually just reading it every day and getting the truth and understand who God is and who the Lord Jesus is and the Holy Spirit. That's what makes it seem religious. That's what's called the daily bread. That is reading it for yourself. that's the purest form of religion, because the Bible, it don't stop people from smoking. He never said, like when you learn about cannibalism and stuff, cannibalism, however you say it, it's like cannabis, right? He also say, drink of the wine and stuff. He just say learn in moderation. So this is what hurt a lot of people from coming to read the Bible, because they think of religion, but it has nothing to do with religion. And that's wonderful, and that's what the Lord teaches us. He says, it's not what goes in a man that defiles him, is what come out of a man that defiles him. And so it's just, you want to be intentional, and the Lord is intentional. He was very intentional when he created everything. He was intentional when he made each and every last one of us. He knew us before we was in the womb, so even the very hairs on our body and stuff, he know the number of all of it. So like, that's how intentional and precise he was when he was even involved in creating us. So if he was so intentional also about the other beings he created, how much more us, when we can actually, the only race of people really can reciprocate that love that he gave us and give it back. And that's why it's, yes, when blessings, praises go up, blessings come down. So like, even what y'all saying, yes, you can create a heaven on earth, and that's your lifestyle and how you're living. And when you're living according to truth, right, you can see these things manifest in your walk and how you live in, and that's just faith. Faith is something that is not seen with the natural eye. So that's why it's like, you are led by faith and not by sight. So it's not based on the things that we are really seeing that we look for. This is what gives us that worldly lust, so really it's in a spiritual sense. So when it comes to faith, it deals with an actual spiritual level in your life. And that sounds great, because guess what? To even be a friend of Jesus is awesome, because he talks about, once you become his friend, he share his mysteries, right? That's like the secret. You become his friend. You're not like a servant. You become his friend, his brother, and his sister, And he wants you to know nothing but the best. He wants you to know the truth, because he is the truth, the way, and the life. So I just like to share that with people, because it's not even based on a religion. Like, anyone can look it up and see that reading the Bible does not make you part of religion. They just do that because they call people Christians, and then here come Constantine with Christianity, you know what I mean? So everybody who believes, they get tied to these religions.
I think there's a part of it
That's why I
where
mess with her so
we
heavy.
have to
My bad. I was saying that's why I mess with technical T so heavy. She keep it a stack, and she gonna tie it back to history just in case you need a year to look at how these things really worked out. Cause I asked her about King James, bro. My world was spun. So I'm learning a lot over there. So even if it's
Yeah, I've
not
been
like, oh, I'm
asking
about to
him
look
if
at
he
that side
won.
today. Yeah.
Okay, technical T. I feel you, bro.
I think there's a part of it where we have to take our own personal accountability and that free will and use that as the basis to be a co-creator with God, because yeah, he created us, but we also have to do the work. And I don't say that to negate anything that was said already, but I think it's really important for us to, well, for me personally, to just realize that I am a co-creator as well, because he created me, and now I have to do the other half of the work. What do they say? Faith without works is dead. Um,
That
yeah,
part.
I can't, wait for
Yes,
God
sir.
to do everything. I have to make those intentional decisions because He was intentional to make me. That just sparked me what you said, that technical T. So I appreciate that.
Definitely faith without works on anything and everything. Because you can come up here and make a theology all day, But if you ain't really walking that walk, then whatever you had said on stereo don't really mean ish.
Yeah, we had definitely talked about in the anatomy of the spirit, and I believe the four agreements they're talking about that personal power that you were speaking on, and having the personal power to be able to have the will within yourself to change. And like I said, I think that with the structure of having a God that you're not connected to. You have to go to a rabbi, a priest, or somebody to channel him, or having this idea that the spirit isn't within you in any sense of the way, and that you would have to continuously go to a source outside of yourself for healing or for comfort or for divinity. I think is a part of that attack on our personal power. And just like Technical T said, she can read the Bible for herself and have that personal relationship, and that is her personal power. And so you, like you said, you have to hold yourself accountable and do the work. And that's why, in the four agreements, it's talking about being impeccable to your word and not sinning against yourself. And we also talked about how, since we are connected to each other in all things divine, and through that we are all divine, that doing a sin onto another person is another way to do a sin onto yourself. And so, by not sinning on yourself and not sinning to other people, you create this constant flow between your energy and the people around you. Like I said, I personally believe that that doesn't mean that at times there won't be negativity, but you'll be able to detach yourself from it, get away from it. And like in the book, he said that they can only plant a seed of negativity in soil that is fit to bear it and raise it and grow it, water it. And you can only plant a seed of positivity in soil that's ready to grow it and bear it. So it's very important to continue to work on yourself and your soil, because that definitely contributes to the things that you let into your garden.
Yes, because faith without work is dead. And that's the part that we have to pick up, because for our faith to grow, we have to study. So we have to take heed to thyself and study to show ourselves approved. So the rulers in dark places, these principalities, which are, evil spirits, they won't deceive us. Yeah, you're so right, Miss.
And nobody
Yes,
can
it's
make you
that
leave.
personal relationship with the Lord. Yes, so He can let you in and you let Him in, and then it's the greater Him that's within us. The Holy Spirit will come and guide us and teach us. So that way men don't have to put their own spin on it, so it won't confuse you. So yes, y'all go ahead with y'all bad self, ladies. I'm listening. And just think, the Lord gives us these seeds. And that's the thing. This is why it all go back to the word, because when you learn about the word, that's who you learn about sowing seeds. You learn about sowing and reaping. You learn about rewards. You learn about a whole bunch of things. This is where everyone is really getting their good information from. And those spirits are within people. That's the whole thing, people. Not just one race of people. It's in a lot of people in different nationalities. So yeah, the deceiver can come in many forms and people. They can shapeshift.
Before I move on to Miss Fabulous, I wanted to see if you guys had anything to comment on Miss Technical T. Um, I'll go last.
I don't. I just appreciate her chiming in. And again, shout out to you, shout out to the listeners.
There's risks to taking that personal accountability. Because as I'm listening to Technical Tea and you're speaking about these things in the Bible that you've personally read, the fact that people weren't allowed to read hundreds of years ago, that was against the law, is crazy to me. So, you had to take a risk to even learn how to read. I'm not sure what the risks that we have to take today to get to wherever it is, the destination that we're able to be, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, but it requires the information, and I love what you guys were saying about having that personal relationship. And so, you had to take a risk to even learn how to read. I'm not sure what the risks that we have to take today to get to wherever it is, the destination that we're able to be, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, but it requires the information, and I love what you guys were saying about having that personal relationship. And when they don't have that personal relationship with the higher source that's connected inside of them, it's an easy way to become a victim of exploitation. And what you were talking about earlier of you agree or not to whatever situation you're in. You agree to get treated like a certain kind of way or not a certain kind of way.
Right. And I think that comes from your personal power. And I think that the way that you perceive the world, like, I'm kind of, I don't know why, I have this obsession with doing multiple things at once. I need to do it. Like when I play video games, I listen to podcasts at the same time because it's the only way I can concentrate on both. I don't know.
You sound like
But
me. I have to have the TV on to study, which doesn't make any sense. Like I have Family Guy or something dumb playing
exactly.
so I can study. Yeah,
Okay. So somebody gets me.
I
It's
feel it.
like
I understand.
I need multiple things going on just so I can concentrate on all of them dedicatedly. So I don't know why,
Mm.
but um in that I am kind of also reading the Alchemist. I go in and out of that one too. And
Okay.
it's talking about how, yeah, when you want something, the universe conspires to give it to you. And
Mm.
I think that that is very powerful and very true because it also works for the idea that if you want to be a martyr or live a life where you're like, my life was terrible, and as much as you feel like you don't feel like that, you know what I mean? Think about the things that you allow to happen to yourself or the spaces that you allow yourself to give energy to, and you think, okay, the universe is conspiring to give me that as well. And I think that it works both ways. And it's like we always talk about, it's important to be intentional with your
Yeah, because
thoughts, your
I'll say stuff
energy.
about myself and like and I've noticed that like I have to watch my words because I'll like just be joking, but I'm stressed out. I'm like, oh, my life is in shambles, and I say this all the time, and my life is embarrassing. So I'm not gonna say anything else. But yeah, I completely agree with Elle on that.
One thing I will suggest before I get back into the messages is if you have a problem with, I think, self-deprecating thoughts, which I do, I think that a good thing to do just for a little bit, it actually really helps me. Also, just being this has helped me a lot. I'm more intentional in times where, you know how like you just it like you naturally think something negative and you have to think about it like, did I mean that? And you're just like, I guess, or you're like, no, but it's like it just happened, but it is your
It just
thought.
happened.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right, and it becomes a subconscious way of thinking that you pressed it, you pushed it in the back.
the
This
conscious control. Yeah.
right. So I think sometimes it helps training yourself from the subconscious out. And so something that I did that I'm actually reminding myself of in this moment too. Because doing this has helped those thoughts a lot. Like I'll have a natural thought that it would be like this actually happened yesterday. I said I love myself. And I was like, oh, I never just randomly think that. Like it's sad to say, but it's
Oh
like that is true.
snap!
So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going with this. I'm living like
That's
this.
what's
I'm
up.
doing the. I'm just
Yeah.
fine, 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 fine,
And
fine. Whoo. You know, I was like, okay. Right. So, basically, long story short,
Yeah.
there's these things on YouTube. I listen to like meditation music or like frequency, but there's a specific thing where they do say out loud affirmations, and they have specific 8 hour long videos where they just say out loud affirmations, and it's not hidden, but it's like playing the meditation music. It's like you can hear it, and what I do is I turn it semi low, and I would only be able to like do it for like 3 hours of the night. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, turn it off, and then go back to sleep. The meditation music I can do all night. That I can only do for a little bit because someone is talking at you, so eventually you will wake up. But I did that every night for a couple of months, and it did really change the way that I thought about myself subconsciously. And so these thoughts that are happening when I'm not really paying attention, that are also creating this negative reality, I could better refocus them towards positivity, if that makes sense.
I like that idea.
My phone had died, so now I'm on a tablet. It sounds really low. And Miss Fabulous, you is so right. And it's just today for me, it's like we're not in that time. Today in this modern age, everybody has an opportunity to be allowed to read. So they have to really, like you said, be accountable. We can no longer say, oh, 100 years ago we couldn't read, because we can't let that mentally enslave us, because today we are allowed to read.
I was gonna say the only thing I could really think of is when folk be like, "Oh, you over there reading?" They ridicule you for reading, but then they would ridicule you for reading anything, including the Four Agreements. Like they just call you nerds or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So those people can stay over there. You know what I'm saying? They just don't want to read.
Hmm.
Period. I like to read. I
I
can't
would
help it. I
say
want knowledge out here. Yeah.
I would say that that's a perfect example of casting spells against ourselves, because we do see in a movie
Hmm.
dynamic and in a real life dynamic that sometimes a lot of the people that say that stuff are actually just envious because they feel as though they're incapable of having the same level of intellect as you, as to just read a book
Hmm.
and be able to process it and learn it. And so that comes from their lack of personal power. So you can accept that, and then you guys become in this agreement and latch on to each other's lack of personal power. But really that comes from them being like, I feel like I'm incapable of sitting through a book that is educational, or I feel like that's not my speed, or I feel like I'm not a good learner, or I feel like, so that's really them projecting that feeling onto you. Because we know a lot of times there'll be times where they'll be like, I always thought you were super smart, and it's like, I thought I was the nerdiest person in the world, but that was them projecting. And sometimes people grow up and they can tell you these
Hmm.
things, but sometimes they don't.
I
So
even
it's
heard
a
that
part of
Oreo thing
that.
goes the same way. Like they're just like they're upset that they can't talk as properly as you. And I was like, that's interesting. They would never admit that though.
Right. And I think that comes from that growth of being able to say, I really actually admired you. That's really what it is. I admired you, but I didn't feel comfortable asking you to teach me because I felt as though like you were going to judge me the way I'm judging myself. So instead of that happening, I judged you first. And it becomes this vicious cycle of us casting spells against others and coming into agreements with others that we really don't have to. And that, like I said, some people they'll grow out of and they'll let you know and they'll be open and willing, and some people won't. But at the end of the day, um, it feels like okay, so like an anatomy of the spirit, she said a person, like if you don't forgive somebody, say you're like somebody made you mad, you're like, I'm not going to forgive them, you don't forgive them because you feel like that gives you power. But really what it's actually putting out into the universe is a feeling of powerlessness, that you need to get it whenever you can, you know and that is the reality that you'll have. So it's really just about having the understanding. And then when you come to you know, these understandings and these moments where you're able to take these are the moments where you have to take your physical self out of it and really look at it like you're looking from above with your higher self, and seeing the situation as an outsider and being like, I could see, like I'm watching a movie, how
Mm-hmm.
that this is actually the case, which is actually one of the four agreements that we'll get to. He says, don't take anything personally because of this thing, because the words are spells against themselves. And by taking it personally, you agree to the spell.
But I think, you know what, we go through things sometimes to learn those lessons, and sometimes you keep going through the same thing over and over and over until you learn the lesson. Eventually you might learn it, but then there's some 75-year-old people who never learn the lesson.
That is definitely good right there, Miss LE. G. That's good right there, what you just said.
I love what you're saying about that projection, and just because they feel that way, it's no reason to stop your show.
That book is awesome. I have read that book about 10 times. Man, and they got a loved one too that is really nice.
Y'all is, at least y'all's intellect is definitely, listen, y'all is definitely speaking truth, and what y'all learning is actually helping y'all's faith. So I definitely know and I feel that once you guys dig and deep and swim in that word, ooh, y'all gonna be a mighty, mighty tower to be reckoned with. I tell you that, because y'all got some good understanding though when it comes to the impeccableness of your word. You see what I mean? Because you want to say what you mean and definitely mean what you say. You will find yourself having to apologize less when you are talking to someone. And that deals with us also listening. So some people, when they wrong, they don't want to listen, so they overtalk you. And that's true, and that's
My bad, guys. I was gonna say, I mean, basically, it goes back to Technical T's favorite book. I know it says, "Let your yeses mean yes and your no mean no." So let your word be impeccable. I feel that. I'm sorry. You can go ahead and play the message.
And that's true, and that's why people continue to fall, because once they get the help from the Lord, they go back to doing the same things. And then when some go back, they go back to the Lord, and then they be doing the same thing, and it's a repetitive thing. That's right.
That was another revelation and revolution that I believe was an Anatomy of the Spirit. Like I said, I read them the same day, so I'm intertwining them, but both are, I believe, speaking to the same testimony. So I think that it's fine. But it was talking about feeling like God is only present when things are going your way. Feeling like the universe is only conspiring in your favor, or that the spirit is only present, or that life is only, things are only, oh, your personal power, that's what it is. You attach your personal power to things going your way. So when things are not going your way, you allow it to completely drain you. And what you were saying reminds me of this song by this woman named Regina Spektor. It's kind of morbid how good of a song it is, but it's very like, it's sad and slow, but uh it's like nobody laughs at, I'll do the lyrics, but just bear with me and I'll explain it. She's like, nobody laughs at God in a hospital. Nobody laughs at God in a war. No one's laughing at God when they're starving or freezing or so very poor. Uh, you know, like basically that. But then she says, but God can be funny at a hotel party, listening to some jokes, or when the crazy say he hates us, like God is a funny joke when your life is going well, and sometimes people will say, okay, now I don't need him. Now I don't need to pray. Now I don't need to do the stuff that I did to get out of this rut. Basically, it's like the idea of relying on spirit is funny until you need to do it, and not understanding that there's this consistent effort and this consistent work that needs to be done with it, because you do the work to get yourself out of a rut. Like when I'm feeling low, I'll meditate and meditate and meditate, and then as soon as I'm feeling better, I won't meditate anymore. Then I'm feeling low and I'm wondering, well, I thought well, consistency. Consistency is key. Comprehension is another thing of, comprehending what you're doing, what you're taking in, what you're giving your energy to, and then also being consistent in the things that you do say that you believe. That is another way of being impeccable to your word, because that, I guess only if you said, I'm going to be a good person today, and then tomorrow you started being an asshole, like, I guess that would be fine. But it becomes this this lifetime agreement. Like in the Anatomy of the Spirit, she said our biography becomes our biology. So even if you are thinking that it's going to be this one time thing, it actually does alter your DNA, and unaddressed can cause health issues. And that's something that she studied on, wrote a whole couple of books about, so it's this understanding that even though there's a balance, I'm in the world, but I'm not of it, that there's this need to have this great understanding of both to be able to exist comfortably, and not in the comfortable way that's detrimental in the, you know, created heaven, that you made for yourself.
That was good, Elle. I'm gonna have to actually hop down. I gotta get my daughter ready for bed and stuff, dinner and stuff like that.
Moody, thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here. And like I said, I'll plan that talk and everything. We'll get that done.
Yes, yes. Thank you all for. Oh, thank you for having me. Good
Thanks, Moody.
talking with you, Lo. Yes, and I can't wait until we you get that show together so we can do that. But I'll see y'all later.
Yes, ma'am.
Deuces.
Bye.
Sorry, I'm trying to navigate traffic. Play these last two messages.
And that is so true what you're saying, even about that DNA. And that's what give us the DNA to be in the kingdom and be called children of God. Because when we give ourselves back to the Creator, we are now His. So, oh, y'all, it's doing so well. Y'all doing so well. My husband, he's a Leo. That is wonderful.
I honestly feel like oh, Lo, can you can you mute yourself real quick? It's like echoing.
My bad.
No, you're good. Um, yeah, I honestly feel like we've dived as much into the first agreement as we can. I think Moody's got it right, and it may be good to take an exit. So some last thoughts that I have, and I'll give Lo a chance to get in a position to say some last thoughts. And if you have any last comments, Miss Fabulous, thank you for joining. Artemay, Technical T, and of course, thank you, Moody, for being here. I want to try again next Sunday to schedule the second agreement and keep going from there. Also, sometime throughout the week, I'm going to be reading the second half of chapter 1 of the Anatomy of the Spirit, because it's a lot to digest. So I read it and then I discuss it. You send messages in. So I will be doing that. Make sure if you guys were down below, you followed everybody, and I followed everybody back. So yeah, my last thoughts on this that I've really been processing would be in being impeccable with your word. It is understanding that hurting yourself is hurting others. It's a spell. It's an agreement that you don't have to agree to the spells others try to cast on you, although it is good to take constructive criticism. That being said, make sure that your mind is only fertile for positive seeds and not negative seeds by continuously, like even I'm from Colorado and marijuana is legal here. So a lot of my friends, when it first became legal, were like, I'm gonna start growing, and their plants died because they just thought that they were just gonna plant the seed and then wake up one day and be smoking every day. Sometimes, depending on the plant, depending on what you're going through, where you are, I mean, you might have to tend to your garden every hour, every 6 hours, every couple of minutes. And it's important to find out what your personal power is. A question that they asked in the anatomy of the spirit is, what gives you your power? So I encourage everybody to really think about that. I had to, because my first 3 answers had to do with serving other people and not really much to do with myself. So I'm still processing that and going through the process of what that means to me. So in creating my own personal heaven, like in the Four Agreements said, being impeccable with my word to me means being intentional with my energy. I'm only putting intention of love and positivity into myself. Therefore, I only have the energy and time to direct that at others. And if anybody has the time and energy to do the opposite, I'm making sure my garden, knows the difference and that those kind of thoughts won't even flourish here. And that is the biggest takeaway from that. And Lo, you can go ahead and tell me, your takeaway and your ending thoughts, and then I'll play the messages.
Yeah, I was gonna end my thoughts because I don't think everybody was in the room when I said the philosophy quote. Still don't have the name. I think it's anonymous. But I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So essentially, what I said was that is where you determine your echo chamber. Whoever, like Ella said, wherever you put your energy to. If you're putting your energy into your parents and you want to be whatever they say, then that's your echo chamber. If it's your work, that's your echo chamber. If it's something else, that's your echo chamber. For technical T, it would be the Bible. So as long as she lives by the Bible, she is fine. Everything else does not matter. So, just watch which echo chamber you put yourself in. Obviously, for everyone here, we know don't put your echo chamber into one person on stereo, you know? So the quote goes, I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. That's your echo chamber.
Really appreciate the panel that you put together and the topic. It's nice to feed your mind positive things and things that will help to navigate this life because it's crazy. So I just appreciate y'all for setting this up and giving me the chance to express my opinion. I wish that I could listen while I record messages. That's my only thing about this because I feel like I'm missing when I can't listen. But good night, y'all. See you hopefully soon.
Oh, that is beautiful what you just said. I wish that you would give a moment and look at Song of Solomon. He talks about how he was keeping other people's vineyards and not his own. And so he was working for, his family and stuff, and basically like say he was out in the sun and he was tan, so he like don't hate me because I'm black, but comely, like he's still handsome enough, so yes. Oh wow.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. I think that that's a great anthem, by the way. Uh, She also says, and if you know that you pretty, sing it with me. So if you ain't singing, that's being impeccable with your word now. So I think that that is a great way to end the podcast. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here, Moody and Lo for talking with me. I'm gonna go ahead and after this, I'm gonna schedule these talks.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. I hope to see all y'all back in here.
Yeah, I hope everybody can make it. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to be impeccable with your word. All right, bye.
Douches.